Great. So welcome everybody to this evening's session, which is around developing vocabulary and language in the preschool year. So this ideally is a preschool session. If you're here of a parent of an older child, then some of the principles will be absolutely relevant for you. We'll just be using kind of preschool examples as we go through. I just mentioned we are recording this evening's session, and so you should have joined with your video and your audio off, but at the end of the session, I will make sure that there is some time for questions and we won't share that part of the recording. Okay, so developing vocabulary and language. What are we going to cover this evening? Who knows? Hopefully in the next hour, I'm going to do a little bit of a review of the speech and language profile associated with Down syndrome. And then we're really going to focus on our two kind of key topics for this evening. One is on vocabulary. And when I'm talking about vocabulary, I'm really talking about single words. So these are the single words that your child understands. That's their receptive vocabulary. So if you said, oh, where's the ball? And they can find the ball, we know that they understand that word. And then we'll think about their expressive vocabulary. So those are the words that they can say. So if they can say, if you say, what's that? And they say ball, brilliant. Or they might sign it, or they might find a picture or use a device. That would be their expressive vocabulary. So just at the single words. We then will move on to language and syntax, and that's really anything over single words. It's about putting words together and then starting to use maybe a little bit of early grammar, some of those function words like the is and the and the a. And again, when we look at that, we'll be thinking about receptive language. So can they follow some simple instructions, or where's the big ball from the big and the little ball and the big and the little teddy? Or are they starting to put two words together, which would be their expressive language? I will spend a little bit of time at the end just talking about early reading and really just using print as a visual to support language, but that'll all become clearer, hopefully, as we go through. Okay, so just I would do a quick recap on this speech and language profile. We do these information sharing sessions as a series of 3, or I might say 4. We do one around this one tonight, which is on vocabulary and syntax. Then we do one on that focuses particularly on speech. So thinking about all the sounds that children can say, how clearly they can say words and sentences. And then we do one on communication, but we do also link that to behaviour, which is a bit of an extra one. So we kind of have these different areas or strands, if you like, within what we think of as speech and language. As I just said, vocabulary is those single words, and often that can be a relative strength for our children. They will be developing the words that they know right from early on, and they'll continue to add to those words forever, really, just like you or I. They may need some more repetitions to learn a word. So they want to hear it a few more times to really remember and hold on and store those words. And that's what we have particular challenge with. Children with Down syndrome in the preschool years have huge issues with hearing. Often could be a sensory neuro hearing loss, constant hearing loss with some damage to the ear. But what is really common is a conductive hearing loss, normally caused by glue ear wax. And of course, if you can't hear words clearly, that's going to impact how easy it is for you to learn them. And similarly, children with Down syndrome have a specific difficulty with what we call verbal short-term memory. So they have difficulties remembering what they've heard. So they have difficulties hearing it in the first place, difficulties remembering it, and then, of course, difficulties storing it in their head, which means that often the words that they have stored up here are not quite accurate. They're missing some of those sounds that they couldn't hear and remember as they were learning. So if they hear a word like computer, they may well hear on booter, they may just remember on booter, and they might store up here booter, which of course, when they go to say it, is not going to come out clearly like computer because they haven't got that plan in their head accurately to start with. And that plan we call their phonological representation. So that's kind of the representation they have in their head of all of those sounds, those phonemes for the word. Syntax is kind of the posh word for language, if you like. It's just about putting words together. So we have this relative strength and we're learning these words typically, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. In the preschool years, children will be learning lots of words and know lots of words that they're not yet able to produce. That's common for all children, but our children are in that stage for a bit longer. When we move through to putting words together, we have similarly more difficulty with saying those words, moving on to putting two words together. Still have a relative strength in following some of those instructions. And we have particular difficulty with what we call morphosyntax, or what you and I might call grammar. So things like the the's and the as and the is and the to and the for that come up in sentences, or the plural s, so like one duck and two ducks, or that possessive s, daddy versus daddies, for example. So that's a bit more of a challenge for our children, but we'll talk about some of these challenges in much more detail. In terms of speech, as I said, that's really when we're thinking about difficulties with clarity and intelligibility. So we have some children who are putting words together, but they're really having difficulties making other people understand what they're trying to say. Or they may be saying words and they're missing some of the sounds off of the words. They would be very common, again, for lots of children as they're learning to talk. But for our children, they often have a bit more challenge with that, and it can hang some of those difficulties, again, last for a bit longer. Then that communication, that's kind of a relative strength area for our children, particularly in the early years, often have real strengths with non-verbal communications. Although they might not be saying many words, they're great at getting you to know what they want, what they don't want, what they don't like, often very expressive faces, good tone of voice, and you can clearly see when you're not in their good books, although they might not be able to say any particular words at all. But they have difficulties with later communication skills, and that often comes back to language, really, being able to start a conversation, being able to say, oh, I haven't understood what you meant there, or you have misunderstood me, all involves more language. But generally, certainly in this age, as a relative strength. Okay, so thinking about vocabulary as our starting point, in the early years, is developing a bit more slowly, although receptive vocabulary is ahead of expressive vocabulary. So our children take a little bit longer to learn words. And as I said about the hearing and the verbal short-term memory difficulties storing those words, that's understandable. But they are still developing these vocabularies. And what we tend to see in the preschool years is often children will understand quite a lot of words, yet they're not able to use any of those words. They're not able to say any of those words. You may be using some signing, they're not able to say any of those words yet. So we can see quite a big gap between what the children understand. If you ask them to get a load of things or to choose a load of pictures or point to a load of things, they may be able to do that, but they're not yet able to tell you any of those words. But that vocabulary, both receptive and expressive, continue to increase. And actually vocabulary becomes a relative, receptive vocabulary particularly becomes a relative strength in adolescence, a real strength in adolescence and adulthood. As I said, we have a bit more difficulty, and so more repetitions to or opportunities really to hear and learn that word is really helpful. And of course, excuse me, longer words are trickier to learn than shorter words. Words like ball are relatively have not many sounds and are relatively easy to remember compared to words like helicopter, where you've got loads and loads of sounds and patterns to remember. So that kind of makes easy sense. And the other thing just to say is where a word occurs in a sentence also impacts how easy it is to learn. So if you said, oh, there's a helicopter up there in the sky, it's really quite hard to pick out what word, hang on, which word? Well, I've got to pick out which bit of that sentence or those sounds that person just made is that word and link it to that thing up there. Whereas if it's at the end of a sentence, it's much easier. Now, we can't all go around thinking all the time, okay, I'm going to try and put all the words that I think are a bit tricky or that we're learning at the end of a sentence, because that would just sound weird. But it is worth thinking, if you say, oh, there's a helicopter in the sky up there, I'm pointing out that there's a helicopter. That's the important bit. So I might just say at the end, can you see helicopter? So you're just making that word really clear. So when you're thinking about, oh, what's the important words that I'm saying if I'm trying to teach them words, just making them as clear as you can is going to be really helpful. And as I said, we have these poor sound patterns of words stored in our heads, and we need more repetitions to make those more and more accurate. And I'll talk a bit about how we can do that in just a second. So, where are we going? Okay. First of all, it's important to say it's going to be happening throughout every day. All the time you're naming things for your child, talking to your child, repeating words for your child, you are going to be teaching them language. And of course, as for everything in life, I think the more motivating it is, the more quickly you pick these things up. If it's your favourite toy or your favourite person or their favourite thing to do or your favourite TV show, those are the words we're interested in learning. And we want to be able to use and ask for in the future. What we know is we've said we need a bit more repetition. So we need to be thinking about, okay, how can we get that bit more repetition? How can we make sure that we're getting some of this extra practice for these words? Because of course, as I said, you're going to be talking about these words all the time, but how often does that helicopter fly overhead and you get the chance to name it? Depends on where you live, I guess, but not very often for me. So it's useful to kind of set yourself some targets. And that can be as structured or as kind of free as you like. But think about maybe if you've got a young child, you might be thinking, okay, I don't think we know many words yet. I'm going to choose some everyday words that come up over and over again. I normally say to my parents of the youngest children, my first groups, I'll say, right, let's choose some words. Have a think this month about some words that come up every day. And next time, tell me what your targets are going to be. And it might be things like milk, it might be things like bath, nappy, ball, teddy, those sorts of things. As we get a bit older, you might be thinking, okay, I'm going to think about some of the words that my child knows. I know they know some animals and I know they know some transport words because we've got some of those toys, but I don't think they know any clothes items, or I don't think they know any colours yet, for example. So you could think about choosing some words like that. There are lists of words out there. There are checklists available. There's a group called Down Syndrome Education International, and they have developed some checklists with long lists of words. Equally, if you Google lists of words, or I can put a link out actually when I send you the checklist there that can give you a bit of guidance about what words normally come up in early child language. So have a look at those and choose some words for your child. So they're going to be things that your child likes to talk about, relevant to your child. If you live on a farm, there might be some farm animals. If you live on a busy road, you might want to choose some transport words that you're going to see out the window, but things that are going to be coming up for your child. And things that are a kind of an appropriate language level. So thinking about, oh, we've got some as I said, we've got some animals, we've got some transport, we've got some clothes, maybe we'll do some colours, or maybe we'll do some big and little to be able to then do some two words together. Normally, when I choose words that are linked together because there's some evidence to suggest that that's helpful in terms of storing those words. There is a link between them. They are all animals or they are all transport, and that helps with retrieving them later on. And as you develop your word list, the words that your child in your child's vocabulary, we'll be thinking about not just nouns, so those objects, those things that I just said about the farm animals and the zoo animals and the transport and the clothes, and they're all objects, but also thinking about action words. They're really important. Things like eating and drinking and sleeping, and again, all the things that happen every day for the child. And then some of those early adjectives describing words, so big, little, colours, shapes are often the kind of ones we focus on in these early years. What I haven't said yet is you want to choose words in terms of your child's understanding. So do they know those words? Can they show you that they know those words? So you might choose to do colours. So you might introduce red, blue, green, and yellow. And you do a bit of work on matching those colours and doing some puzzles and doing some of the sorters and lots of practice of hearing that word and matching the colour and sorting objects by colour. And then you say to your child, oh, can you show me which one is red? And you hold up to, and can they find the red one? And if they can, we know that they can understand that word. You also have some words in terms of, so that's your receptive vocabulary. Those are the words that you're working on in terms of understanding. And then you may well have some different words that you're working on in terms of the words that the child can say. So when the children are little, these words are just going to be single words, really. But as you get to kind of 2, 3, 4 years of age, your child is going to know lots of words and they might not yet be saying many words. So I'd be thinking about words we already know that they know really well, and those are going to be some of my targets in terms of words to say. And they could be quite similar, they could be really quite different. You might be working on understanding colours, but you're still working on saying animal words, for example, or mummy and daddy, things like that. First thing to do is just think about all the things you've got around you. If you've chosen your target, and it's I'm going to stick with animals, it makes my life easy. And you're going for animals, just think about, okay, I'm going to go through the books on the shelf and get out the animal ones. I'm going to get out the animal toys and make sure they're out every day, because I know now when we're playing, when we read a story, I'm going to name those animals every single day for the child, and that's going to be really beneficial. If the child is interested in those, I mean, that's the other thing, choose things that your child's interested in is really helpful, because then when they go over to play with those, gives you an opportunity to do a bit of commenting, a bit of labeling for them, and then showing them what to do with those objects. Oh, we've got the cow. Let's build a little Duplo wall around him. Oh, yep, he's in there. Where's the tractor? Did you get the tractor? Should put the I've forgotten if I said cow on the tractor. Yeah, off he goes. Yeah, bye cow, etc., etc., etc. So that's really helpful. You can put them in the bath, you can get them in the painting, you can put them anywhere, hide them in the garden, hide them under cushions on the sofa, any kind of, oh, look, there's one. Ow, I've just trodden on his hooves again. You'll be getting that repetition, which is great. On top of that, it is useful. I mean, if you've done that, you'll be getting structured practice anyway. But when these words are coming up all around you all the time, it can be quite useful to think about just having, I'm going to spend 5, maybe 10 minutes every day just going through my target words. And when you're doing these words, you always want to have a visual support there. So you're going to have the toy animal or a picture of the animal, or you might be doing the action if we're doing sleeping, or not going to pretend to be asleep. Wake up. Might be doing some signing. Signing's often useful in terms of giving some visual information about the word. What's a nice activity is just having a vocabulary bag or a vocabulary book, which is simply a little bag that you've got left over from Christmas. It could be a Christmas Christmas present bag that you put your things in, so your animals, or whatever it is, and you take them out and you practice naming them. So you think every day I'm just going to make sure I get that bag out, and we look at the things that are in there. Or similarly, a set of pictures, just going to get those out and have a look through those. The other thing that's a really good way of teaching is Lotto or picture matching. So you have a board with your target pictures on, and then you have the same set of matching pictures to put on top. So either making picture boards, or they do lots of those form board puzzles, which are great, where you pull out the whatever item it is, and it's got the matching one underneath. So a bit of fine motor skills as well there. And throughout this, you need to be thinking I'm doing loads and loads of teaching. It's not about going, oh, which one is it? Because they need to hear it loads before they're ready for the asking, oh, can you pass me the ball? Ball. Where's the ball? Oh, lovely. Once you think they've got it, then you can start to do that bit of asking, and then it's a great way for them to show you what they can understand, because often it's easy to miss that stage, because typically developing children go really quickly from understanding words to starting to say words. Whereas for our children, we're starting to learn words and understand words, but it might be quite a long time before we move into being able to say those words. And we need to be thinking about, oh, how can they demonstrate some of that great knowledge that they have before we finally move on to, can you have a go at saying this word or signing this word? As we're going, we're always going to be modelling it for them, always encouraging them to have a go. Ball, can you do that? Ball, lovely. And everyday play and activities, toys, stories, visits to the park if you're doing the park equipment, or visits to the beach if you're going to do beach equipment, or the woods, or wherever. Going out and looking over the bridge, anything. On the next slide there is some examples. They're just some animals off of Amazon, but if you get yourself a set and you know that they're out, you know that you're practicing them. There's an example of a Lotto board, so you'd have the matching cards to go on top. So you'd look at them. Shoes, it's shoes. Can you find the same? And again, I'm saying, can you find the same? But really, I'm going to help you. It's shoes. Can you find the same? Let's see, shoes. It's this one, and oh, look, it's this one here. Let's do it together. Put it on. Tap, tap, tap. Brilliant. Because I want them to learn how to do this first of all before I move into, oh, it's the shoes. Oh, you're right. That is the shoes. And there's just an example there of big and little. So you can see it's exactly the same item. So when you're thinking about introducing some of those adjectives, as I said, colours or shapes, having things that are exactly the same apart from that one thing that you're teaching is really helpful in terms of starting to show what is the difference between these two things. If you've got a great, I'm rubbish on animals, but if you've got a great big Alsatian and a tiny little Jack Russell, then there's lots of differences between them, not just big and little. There's different colour, different shape, different ears, different. But if I've got two the same, other than just the size, then it's easy, much clearer to be able to see. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop on vocabulary. Like I said, we can come back and if you've got any questions at the end, absolutely, absolutely fine. Want to think about moving on to putting words together. And this is really starting with just two words like, oh, more, bubble, more, buy, and please are often the first kind of two-word combinations. You want more bubbles, you want more biscuit, you want more fun, whatever it might be. So what's particularly challenging for children with Down syndrome are those action words, as I mentioned, and action words are really important for putting words together in later language. So it's worth, if you think, oh, my child's doing really well with nouns, it's worth really spending a bit of time focusing on those verbs. We have a particular difficulty with grammar. So as I mentioned, those function words, the, a, to, for, it. And then what we call that morphosyntax, things like plurals and possessive s, 3 ducks, mummies, tense markers, the difference between jump, jumping, jumps, and jumped. If you think about when you're talking, those are the bits of the sentence we don't stress. They're not, so they are the hardest to hear, making them the hardest to remember. They're not always clear in terms of their meaning, which again makes it difficult to make that link between the word itself and what it means. So it's not a surprise that they're harder. We tend to see more difficulties with expressive language, so being able to use some of those sentences, although they may well understand following some of those sentences and instructions. And if you want to try to promote your child with their talking when they're starting to put words together, there's been some research to show that having pictures in front of them enables the children to produce more language. So rather than just saying, what did you do at preschool today? If you say, oh, what did you do at preschool today? And we've got some pictures, that's going to obviously help your child to produce more words. It's really, really useful to have those visuals around. So there's a real link between vocabulary and syntax, putting words together. Once the child has 50 to 100 words that they understand, so if you think about your list of words that you've got ticked off, if you've got your family on there, if you've got some animals on there, you've got some transport words, and then you've got your clothes words on there, you've got some everyday routines on there. It doesn't take long to get to 50. It might feel like a load, but actually that you can get there quite quickly. They should be starting to be able to follow to what we call information carrying word phrases, or information carrying word level, which is all, rather than just can you find ball, or can you find duck, or can you find teddy? It's now, can you find the big or little teddy, the red or the blue ball? Once the child gets to 250 plus words, vocabulary single words, we should be starting to understand some of that more complicated grammar. So thinking about bringing in some of those is, the, for, to, for them to hear it a bit. I'm thinking about in groups, if we're doing in the pig, for example, and they post the pictures in the posting bin that looks like a pig, and they say in pig, and I say, you're right, we're doing in the pig. I'm just starting to emphasize that function word that's going to be coming soon. Difficulty with those grammatical morphemes, as I said. Ready to understand some of those grammatical morphemes and ready to understand some 3 keyword phrases, like where is the big red ball versus the little yellow cup, kind of thing. So that's how it works for understanding. I understand 50 to 100 words. I can start to follow 2 keyword phrases. I understand 250 plus words. I can start to put together some simple phrases. It's exactly the same for expressive language, so the words that the children can say or sign. Once you can say or sign 50 words, you should be starting to put together some 2-word phrases. Once you can say or sign 250 plus words, you should be starting to put together some of those 3 keyword phrases and introduce some of that grammar, which is where we start to have a bit more difficulty. And of course, as I've said, receptive and expressive can be very, very different. So it may well be, if you've got a child who's 3, or 4, it may well be that you're working on 2, 3 keyword phrases. Where is the big red cup? And your child might not be saying single words yet, or may just be saying single words. And that's important to know. Their level of understanding could be very different to the level of language that they're able to use. I'm sure you will be aware of that, at least to some extent, and it's important to make sure that everybody else who's working with your child is aware of that. They will be understanding much more than they're able to produce often. Just going back to those information carrying word phrases, what's important is the number of choices within that phrase. That's why I call them information carrying words, or keyword phrases is the other expression that comes up quite a lot. So for example, if I was to give a child a baby, a toy baby, a doll, and a brush, and I don't say anything, chances are, if they've done a bit of role play, if they've got some hair and they've brushed their hair, chances are they're going to know what to do. They're going to start to brush baby's hair. That they haven't followed any of my instructions there. They just know what to do with those things, which is where the choice bit becomes important. Because if I say, oh, look, here is, what's my example on there? Here is baby. I've got a brush and a spoon. Can you brush baby's hair? Now I've got to make a choice. So now I've got to listen to what you've said. What do I need for brush? Oh, yeah, brush and baby's hair. I've got my brush. So I followed 1 keyword from your 1 choice, and I've got baby. So 1 keyword phrase. And to make it a 2 keyword phrase, you've got to introduce 2 choices. So I'd have baby and teddy, and I'd say, oh, can you brush baby's hair? Here's my brush, here's my spoon, brush baby's hair. And you've got to be able to take the brush and take it to the baby without me saying anything else, without me going, oh, you're right, that is the brush. And remember, baby's hair. Where's Becky? Because now I've made it 2 1 word again. So it's important that they can remember and follow those instructions. So think about your child. Are they at that 1 keyword phrase at the moment? Brilliant. If they are, or if you thought, oh, I've never really tested that, Becky, I'll give it a go tomorrow, asking them with some things you think, oh, we've been playing with that for a while, or their shoes, for example, something that they're really familiar with. Put out a couple of items of choice and saying, oh, can you give me the, and see if they can. It might be that you can give your child some instructions. A good way to do it is to get out some objects and say, can you remember 2 objects? So let's say, oh, we've got ball and car and teddy. Can you give me ball and teddy? It's nice to help them remember. Remember, ball, you do it. Ball, lovely, and teddy. Ready? Ball, teddy. And see if they can remember 2. And if they are, you can go, oh, hello. They're starting to follow 2 keyword phrases. That's really good. Might be you want to have a test of 3, or you might then want to have a bit of a explore about which 2 keyword phrases. Is it objects? Is it person and object? If you've got a picture of mummy eating, daddy eating, mummy sleeping, and you say, oh, where's mummy eating? Can they choose the right picture without you saying anything more? A couple of repetitions to practice. Okay. So if you're thinking about, okay, well, where am I going to start in terms of developing my syntax targets? If you have a look back at the list you made for your vocabulary words that we talked about earlier, you won't have done that yet. If you have a think over the next week about making a list of words that your child understands or words that your child says and signs, have a look back and think how many. Have you got 50 words they understand? Great. Let's have a think about some targets around following 2 keyword instructions. Have you got 50 words ticked off in terms of says or signs them? Let's have a think about some targets around putting 2 words together. When you look back at your list, look at what sort of words you've got. If you go, oh, I've got loads of nouns, loads of objects, not a lot else, typical. Have a think about introducing some of that big and little, some of those colours, definitely some of those action words. So thinking about what's going to be useful in terms of then combining 2 words in combination. Well, the other thing to say is listen to if you've got a child who's starting to talk, listen to the sorts of word combinations and make a note of them. Oh yes, here sometimes they do 2 words. They might say cup table. You know, oh, you want that cup on the table, that kind of thing. Or they might say more bubbles. Think about what could be next. Or you'd like more, say, mummy, more bubbles. Say, mummy, more bubbles. Put on the next bit for you to follow. Or do you want more little bubbles? Or more of the big bubbles? That kind of thing. So as you tick off your vocabulary targets, think about bringing them in to your language targets. So I've just ticked off my emergency service vehicles. I shall move those into being able to put some action words in there. The ambulance is driving. Or the ambulance has stopped. Stop. That kind of thing. I'm sure you'll be doing lots of modelling in everyday situations. When you're talking in sentences and phrases, you're going to be modelling it all the time. Thinking about modelling back what your child says and adding those few bits in is really helpful. So if they go, let's say Becky goes to school, say, oh yeah, you're right. Your sister Becky's gone to school. So she's gone to school. So you're modelling it for them, getting them to have a go at saying it back with you, have a practice together. Starting with that structured practice, because if we know we're working on, let's say, big and little, we might do some activities with the big and little bubbles and balls and cups and plates and what have you. Less distraction going on than there is in every day, and we know we're going to get those 5-10 minutes of practice. Lots of repetition and support from the beginning, not testing yet, but lots and lots of input. So they're learning and seeing it, how it works, and then we'll move on to some receptive games, or can you get? Barrier games are great. So you just have you have 2 sets of the same resources, one for one person and one for the other person. So you put a barrier in the middle. I would say for me, normally it's a book on a wedge in between. And I might start off with, I've got the brush and I've got the ball. And they've got the brush and they've got the ball. And I'll say, oh, I've got the ball. Can you find the same? ball. You ready? I'm going to hold up the same. Ball, is it the same? Yes, brilliant. To start with, they're probably going to go, what are you talking about? I haven't got anything. You encourage them to pick it up and you teach them the game with lots of practice. You may well start off with the child and you one side and either another adult or a sibling or a friend the other side who understands the game. Or you may even have Teddy one side. So which one are we going to choose? Ball. Tell Ted, ball. Let's see, can he get it? Oh, well done, Ted. Yes, look at that. So you have to take both sides, but giving as much help as you can. And then, of course, you can make it as easy or as tricky as you like. You can have your red cup, blue cup, red ball. Oh, I've got the red cup. Can you find the red cup? Got to find red, and you've got to find cup. Is it the same? And at one level, you may do your receptive. I'm doing the instruction. Then you might say, right, it's your turn. Going to get rid of the red and blue element. We've just got cup and ball. You tell me which one are you getting? And it's their turn to sign or say to you which one it is that they've got. You're going to listen to them. Personal books, I'm going to say lots more about personal books, are a really good way of targeting those kind of phrases, information carrying word phrases. And really, once I'm looking at putting words together, I then start to think about introducing print and early reading. I'm doing for time, not too bad. So these are examples of personal books. So, well, kind of a personal, set up personal book. So we'd have mum, dad, child. You may have you put your siblings in there, or if you haven't got any siblings, you might put other favourite people that you like in there. You might put your family pet in there. You could put a toy in there. But the idea is it's repetition of the same set of people doing lots of different, in this case, actions. You could do personal books about anything. You could have you could have your big and little cards in there, anything like that. But the idea of personal books is they're about the child. They're about things that happen for the child in everyday language, and they provide a bit of structured practice that you can then prompt in everyday language. So you'd be like, oh, look, at dinner time, oh, yeah, look, mummy is eating. Yeah, can you see it? Oh, daddy is eating. So you've got your book out, you've practiced it during the day, and then you can prompt it in everyday language situations. Just to say a little bit about the use of print and reading, there's lots and lots of benefits of shared reading and developing those early book skills. There's been quite a big area of research looking at early book reading with children. Doesn't mean the child reading. It's just you doing the reading and book sharing with the children, looking at the pictures, turning the pages. Books are great in terms of providing experience to loads of things that don't come up in everyday life. Like you've got a book about the dinosaurs, and you've got a book about going to the beach, and you've got a book about volcanoes. So there's lots and lots of words that we wouldn't necessarily come across, and provide some great repetition for those words, gruffalo or witches, whatever it might be. The other useful thing, so there's lots of great things about book reading anyway. The other thing about print is it's a really nice visual prompt for language. So if I understand that you, adult, points to a word and says a word, I understand how print works. You're supposed to point at it and say it, even if I don't quite know what it says. I have a go at making up, and it's a good print. You're pointing, what do you say? Have a go at talking, which is really, really good. However, we're going to go a bit further than that. So if your child's little, getting ready for that early book reading stage, looking at the books, turning the pictures, lift the flaps are great, lots of words, spotting the animals, fab. As they get a bit older, for lots of children with preschool children with Down syndrome, we start to actually develop their own understanding of print and their own recognition of words. We start off by building a sight word vocabulary. So these are words that they just look at and they know what it says. So they will go, oh, that one says mummy. I know that one. That one says ball. I know that one. It's often a strength area for children with Down syndrome. So as I've said, we have difficulties with hearing, verbal short-term memory processing. What we have, the opposite is we have a really good visual short-term memory strength. So much better at remembering what we see, and those visual patterns. And so often, actually, children can be quite good from very early on at learning the written form of words. So we start to build up a few words that the child can recognise. And of course, if I know that one says mummy, and I'm reading my personal book, I'm starting to point and to say the right word. Before you get to that, you'll do lots of repetition and they'll look at the picture and they'll go, that's mummy, and they'll practice saying mummy, and you're doing lots and lots of work on language production anyway, which is brilliant. But over time, it is likely that the child will start to learn some of these words. Typically, children with Down syndrome end up developing a huge bank, or can end up developing a huge bank of these words. All children go through that stage. All children learn whole words. And just children with Down syndrome often will use that strategy for longer. And of course, if we think about what we've just said about the profile, that makes sense. That might be a little bit easier for them. And because of that, lots of children with Down syndrome might be introduced to print before they start school as a strategy for supporting language development. So we're not teaching them because we want them to read at the age of 3. We're teaching them because some evidence has shown that they benefit from the use of this print. They're good at remembering that visual pattern of the word, and we can use that strength to support language. We'll do that just like we did with the picture matching, but this time introducing some word matching. So I'd start with choosing some written words that go along with the personal book. So normally I'll say, oh, make yourself an action book like we just saw. And my first words are going to be family names. Whoever's in your family, whoever your family makeup is. You can add the pet or whoever you want. I'd start by choosing words that the child knows. I've already got those ticked off in terms of my vocabulary checklist. And as I introduce those words, I would do it word to word, just like I did with picture to picture, but this time there's no pictures. Lots of practice. Well, this one says, Becky, can you find Becky? Where's the same? It's here. Put it on. You do. Oh, aren't you brilliant? Yeah. And then once you think, oh, hang on, I'm being a bit slower in showing you where it is, and you're getting there before me, then I might start to go, oh, hello. Which one says Becky? You're right, that is Becky. Fantastic. Before they finally move on to saying the word. So here's just some ideas for matching activities. There you go. You've got your 4 family names. I'd say this one's Becky, can you find the same, put it on there. As another example of just posting for children who enjoy posting, putting things in, just having, I mean, sometimes we just have 2 baskets with the words on the front. You just put it in the same, whatever is a bit motivating for the child, but you'd have several word cards with mummy on, several word cards with Becky on. You say, oh, can you find the same? Let's have a look. Oh, is it that one? Oh, it's this one. Look, yeah, mummy, pop it in. Brilliant. And then as they start to learn those words, we can do a little bit of sentence building. And here is really when they are starting to support, reading is being used to support speech and language. So first 8 words, normally first 4 are family names, but second 4 are going to be verbs, action words. So I can match them in my personal book, my sleeping and my eating pictures. What you can do then is match those words in the sentences. So you get out your book, first page. Oh, look, it is Becky is eating. Where's Becky? Can you find Becky? Yep. Is it this one or this one? Put it on the same. Yep. So you're matching those little sentences up. Becky is eating. Let's read it together. Point and say the words. You might not know them yet, but I'm going to tell you. We're going to practice together. Becky is eating. Brilliant. As they start to know those words, they might start to do a bit of sentence building themselves. You just give them the picture and then they have to match, they have to put the words underneath. Who do we need first? Great, find it. Or matching phrases to pictures. So I've got mummy's eating, I'll find that one in the book. Acting out sentences is a good one. Oh, yeah, eating my banana. Nice. And then you can move that on really to any kind of later target or book that you want. Done your person plus action, you could do your big and your little book or your colours book, or you could extend your person plus action book to another objects. You might have Becky is drinking tea, unlikely. Mummy is eating a sandwich, those sorts of extending activities. You may well be going, oh my word, I don't even know where to begin. Can I get any more help? Just to say, there are programs and support out there if you're feeling a bit like that. I mean, you'll get access to this recording and you'll get the handouts, you'll be able to go back over information. But we do a program called PEGS, our early development groups, where we have videos of activities. So these are broken down. I've gone today, right, I've got to cover the early years, kind of 0 to 4. Let's go in an hour. And in the early development group videos, we go, okay, once a month, you get some activities to have a think about practicing. We'll demonstrate for those for you. And this is how to make them a little bit easier. This is how to make them a little bit trickier, depending on where your child is. In addition to the videos, you have access to an online group with an early development advisor who gets to know you, gets to know more about your child and help to differentiate those even further. So there's some information about those, and there's the resources that you can buy separate from the early development groups to support some of the things that we've talked about tonight and are covered in other sessions. There's also an organisation called Down Syndrome Education International, and they, oh, excuse me, and they produce a set of resources called See and Learn, and they do a See and Learn language and reading program, which covers vocabulary, single words, got some of those matching boards in, putting words together, phrases and sentences. There's also, I've just put on the bottom there, you might come across something called colourful semantics or shape coding. For early years, colourful semantics is more popular and it only really gets introduced with kind of the year before, maybe 2 years before you go to school. It's just a way of giving a visual prompt for the language. So you have, let's say, all nouns are red and all verbs are blue. And you give them a board that's got a blue bit and a blue square and a red square on. And they choose a red picture, they choose a blue picture, and then you practice saying those two words together. It's fine, it's good. I like to support meaning, so I like to have a picture that is those two words. I might have a picture of mummy, I might have a picture of somebody else eating, not mummy. I need to make it very clear that those two words together mean that person is doing that thing. Oh. Just a last example of using print that really supports that spoken practice of words and phrases, even for non-readers. If you think my child's nowhere near reading yet, that absolutely doesn't matter. It can be useful to bring in the use of print right from when I start with my younger babies, so maybe 7, 8 months, I'll say, choose your words that you want to target. You're going to get some pictures of them and put the text underneath. And the child is nowhere near learning those words. That's not what they're there for. To start with, they're there to make sure that the adult always says the same word. So if the card says milk, they say milk. They don't say drink or cup or bottle, or we're going for the target word. So it's really helpful to have it there right from the beginning. It is a strength, and they often learn these written words. So I do like to make them quite clear, make them big and bold. I've said about everybody using the same word. Prompt for talking. I know this has got some words on it, so I'm supposed to say something. And we're keen to introduce those kind of useful sentence strips right from the very beginning. So with nurseries, we'd have things like, can I have? And you'd put some, and you can have those around your house as well. Can I have? You pop on, oh, you're going to ask your brother or sister or dad or whoever for the cup or a drink. You put your picture on there, you go over, you show it to somebody, and they say, oh, what would you like? Oh, can I have a drink? Let's sit together. Practice. Lots and lots of repetition of exactly that same phrase in exactly that same way over and over again, which is really, really good. And I've just put a final note on there, more for me than anybody else, is at this stage I would be avoiding some of those symbol systems. Children are good at learning written words, so let's go for the written word. Okay, I think that's me done. Oh. So just to say, vocabulary target, receptive vocabulary from the beginning, really right from very early, continue to target a range of receptive and expressive vocabulary, and I would be introducing new vocabulary right the way through, including into my adult groups. Think about new experiences and settings when new vocabulary comes up, might be starting preschool, what's some of the words that are going to be at preschool that I haven't come across before, might be peg, it might be tray, it might be name, it might be snack, it might be, if I know some of those words and we make those some of our targets, that's going to help me out. Remember about thinking about combining words and that kind of 50 to 100 word stage, which is important. And then thinking about when you're working on putting words together, really using the words that the children are already familiar with. That gap between receptive and expressive targets may mean that those targets may look very different, and that's absolutely fine, and it's good to know that. And consider ways to bring print into activities supporting visual learning strengths and learning, and even learning words. We end up going to school with some words we can already read. Wow, what does that say to everybody else? You will get a copy of these handouts. It gives you a link to find out more information about our early years development program. That is a program for preschools and preschool professionals, childminders, nurseries to sign up for, to give them support. Early development groups I mentioned. And then if you are starting school soon, then it's worth knowing about our primary education program. That's just a link to online training and events, but I'm sure you know about that, as that's probably how you found your way here. Right, I am going to stop the video there, and I'll see if I have any questions in the chat. But like I said, if you want to